to guide you through your lab today. This is Lab 2. Today we will be building a website out of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Your end product will pretty much look like this. You'll have a menu on the left here with labs that will go out to the labs. You notice the home button actually appears after you actually go to the subpages, right? And then projects will have all the projects. This will pretty much be your home site for your for your projects. So, yeah. Um, and you see down here that the time actually changes as time progresses, right? So if you were to print this page, that will be the time. These color buttons up here, well, this is your uh, profile picture. You can pretty much use any picture you want. This is like a rotating image that rotates every minute or so, right? Just like that. Notice I didn't click anything there. Then this changes the color of the page. Yeah. So now these are pretty much JavaScript controls that we're using right now to implement some UI flashery, but eventually this will be the theming of the site, and you will be able to use these controls to change the color of the site based on your profile. All right, that's the idea behind this concept. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Now, our first order of business is to open up Visual Studio Code, and it is to let me see. Well, first and foremost, we're gonna start with going to your icons might look a little bit different, but this is a Stardock theme, so yeah. So we're gonna see. All right. So if you install XAMPP to the default directory, now if you didn't do the default directory, then you'll have to go to the directory you installed XAMPP in, but it should be in XAMPP here in htdocs. What I do have here is that I have an ICS folder here, which includes my projects. But what you want to do is you want to start with a brand new project. So just gonna go in here, create a new folder. I'm gonna call this one demo, right? No, because this is my demo. All right. So in my demo folder, I want to right click here and open with code. So if you install Visual Studio Code already, it should bring you directly into the demo folder here. Okay. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to actually do a new file uh, in this demo folder. We will call that index.html. All right. So with this index, normally an HTML document has a HTML tag, right? You have a head element. Oops, my bad. And then you want to have a title in there. Okay. And the title is Kenji's site. Right? And then we want to introduce a body tag. Now, this is where most of your content is going to go. The body is going to have an H1 element, which is a heading element. This is going to be Kenji's site. Now, you don't necessarily have to call it this, right? You can call it whatever you want. The fact is that it's going to be displayed. So you notice that when I save, Visual Studio Code actually automatically formats the text for me, which is a really cool thing. Back in the days when we used to do this, we had to pretty much format the stuff ourselves, right? So now that I've done that, I can go to HTTP Now, first and foremost, you want to make sure that your XAMPP installation is running. So let's open that up. All right, so here I have Apache running and MySQL running. Okay, so if you notice, I did not install FileZilla or Mercury or Tomcat. You could have done it if you wanted to, but my advice is just to install these two. Okay, so if you went to the last lab, this is what you would have up and running already. So I have Apache running and MySQL running. So if it doesn't run, it should look like this, right? And then you want to press start. Okay. Yeah, just like that. You can close this out once it's running, and then you can go to your local host, like I said. So here, my local host is localhost. If I go to localhost, right, it'll redirect me directly to the dashboard, which is kind of what you want. But because we put it into this folder here, right, demo, the page I want to look at is demo, and that's the page I get. So it's Kenji's site. So all that we've done so far is pretty much display the title, which is up here, right? That's this title reflects what's here. So let's say awesome site, right? You actually see that this changed to, when I refresh a page, it says awesome site, right? So it's pretty cool. Now, okay, so if I was to change this heading, right? If I was to change this heading, you would have this. Kenji's awesome site. Okay, pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna flavor this up a little bit, right? We're gonna introduce some more elements to it. Now, if you have not used Bootstrap in the past, you can go up to Libre3C Schools. So this is the go-to site for anything HTML, right? So we're gonna use today we're gonna use two libraries. The first one is going to be Bootstrap. Now, Bootstraps allows us to have a really good grid, pretty cool gridded system, and then we're gonna use JRuby3 CSS. Now, with Bootstrap, we actually want to learn. We really just are after the grids, right? So these are the grid systems. So it allows you to define a row, and then each of these columns. Yeah, each row represents a grid. So, for example, this would be a row, and then each of these are columns, right? Just like that. So, because of this, it allows you to pretty much segregate your site into portions of how you want to display your site. So, for example, we can go like this. Right, so we can just go, hey, in my body, I want this header to be on top, right? So div equals row, just like that. But this really doesn't do anything, right? Because for the most part, the class rows does not yet exist. So why doesn't it exist? Because we haven't imported the library yet, and the library is this Bootstrap library. So in this Get Started page, it'll show you how to import it. Now, normally you would pretty much import it directly from the from the CDN. Okay. Uh, what CDN is pretty much an online repository that stores stores basically JavaScript and CSS repository for elements like for libraries like Bootstrap and stuff like that. So this Max CDN itself is one is actually where the Bootstrap library resides. The Ajax Google APIs.com is where jQuery resides. Now, JPopper is really used for mobile Windows. Okay, and then this final Bootstrap min.js is used for your animations. So we copy this in and put it right into our code. Okay. Now you could go out to those sites and download it, but it's not optimal uh, uh, because the actual because these things actually change over time. So if you put in a CDN, then you know exactly which version that you're targeting. So let's say you download this version, you're not really sure which version that you actually have. You actually go into the code to really see which version you're using. But if you use the CDNs, then you're actually targeting the version that's actually right in this URL, so you know exactly which version you're on. Now, there's ways to implement it so that you can always make sure you're on the right version. But once I import this library in, you can go back to here, and now the thing is applied. So I put it directly into the row here. So why does it look like this? Well, because the row itself does not pretty much has no spacing on left or right. Right? So we actually want to do another div, right? We'll put column. Okay, so because we put column here, we can actually move this into here. Okay, now let's see what it looks like. All right, now you have the proper spacing. The row actually has a -1, so if we actually go into our debugger, right, row itself, if we inspect this, row itself has a -15 margin to the left and -15 margin to the right. So what that means is that it's actually bigger than your screen, and this is for offsetting hidden controls and stuff like that, right? So when you put a column in there, right? You press F12 and you actually go right into the analyzer here. So let's say so when we actually put a column in there, right? So this column actually has a max width of 100, right? Percent. It's actually positioned padding to the left 15, padding to the right 15. So this brings us back to 0, right? The positioning of column is relative. Okay, so right, so you have this this title here. Okay, so what are we gonna add next? We actually want to have another column. So this is the first row. We actually want another column here. Right. So this is where we actually want to display our image. So I'm gonna create a folder in here again. So the second icon has a new folder, right? And we'll say, hey, images. All right. So in this image, I'm going to add Reveal and File Explorer. So this is where your folder is, right? I'm going to add some images. Now, I already have some images here. Right, so I'm gonna drag my images. Put them in here. Right, so I've named. So what you want to do is you actually want to go and name each of these images into a good size. So, for example, I named them logo 1 through 6. You can call it whatever you want, but we're gonna use these as rotating images, right? So what you want to do is and they all should be relatively around the same size. So in order to do that, you can go out to this website called paint.net. Okay, just go to download, and then you want to download. You want to download. You can go to the second option here and download the .pdf. All right. So once that's done and you installed it, you should be able to get the application here. You open it up, right? Right. So this is my the full size image I have is actually here. Right. So this is my full size image, right? Just drag it right in, open. Okay. So just want to resize it. And you can go by height or width, just make sure that all the images are the same. So you actually want to do like for this, I want my height to be 100. So you can make it any size you want. So the height will be 100. It'll be about this small, right? Okay. So you just go File, Save As, and you do JPEG, you do PNG. Either two of these will be fine. Even a GIF will be fine, right? So you just want to save as a JPEG. So save as logo 1. Okay. And boom. Don't really worry about this unless you want a lower quality. 95 it should be pretty good. So you save that. You see that, and it actually saved here. So at this point, you can pretty much drag into the folder that you just created, which is this folder right here. Yeah, this folder here. So you can pretty much drag this, copy this, and then paste in here. All right, and so you should have a series of this. I have these 6. You can go as much as you want, or you can just do up to 3. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so once it's and these images are in here, yeah, I should just go, hey, I want a new image. So the tag for image in HTML is just image. The source where the image resides is where the source is, right? And then just go images, right? And then logo. Right? So that's all you gotta do. And the good thing about this is that it actually detects the images for you. So, save this. Go out to your site, and boom, there it is. It shows up, right? So now you got your header and you got your image, right? But this column, this is actually all the way to the right. So I want to do some decoration. I want to change this up a little bit, you know. So let's do this. Let's put this H1 into a span, right? Now with CSS, you want to as much as possible extrapolate everything to classes so that you can do site-wide changes using these classes. Okay, so the nature of CSS is that it allows you to have that capability. So in this lab, I'm going to introduce that to you guys. All right. so dark on the right. Okay, so in span, I'm gonna call it equals header title, right? And then class equals heading title. Now, and then I'm going to move this to that. Okay, at this point we haven't really done anything. We took away the H1 tag, so what does that do? Well, you can go back to our site. Basically just makes it a normal font, right? But there's a couple more things we could do. Let's say I want to align that font to the left. So I can just go style equals. Now you can do this in a class, like I said, or you can just say, or you can just put it right into the tag here. So you can go style. Let's see, text align left. Okay. Okay, and save. Now we actually have this. You notice there's no change at all. Why is that? Because if we actually look at the source itself, right, you'll see that this you see that this is actually this is actually spanning to the right of the entire page. Okay, so now you have two columns here that's doing that. So in order to line up next to the picture, we just have to move it. Now the picture's actual width is a little bit too big, right? So the column that contains the picture's width is too big. So what we could do is we'll add an ID in the picture. So I'm gonna call this ID equals another logo. And then we wanna pretty much say, hey, style equals next width 220. So what does that do? Well, we can go back and take a look. Oh. Well, it's a little bit big, don't you think? That's a little bit too big for our site, right? So let's say we want to make it a little bit smaller. So this image, we'll add another ID to that. Call it logo image, okay? Now, okay, so add ID to that, and then like I was mentioning earlier, you kind of want to put these styles in the classes, right? So you want to put these styles in the classes, so you actually want to create a new folder here called CSS. Right, and in the CSS folder, we want to create a new file called let's just call it simple style.css. Right, so in this style.css, we actually want to have the styles for the header title. We want to make that font size a little bit bigger, right? So I'm just going. So in CSS, to declare a class, you simply put a dot, right, and the name. header title, and then followed by parentheses, and then you want to do font size equals 25. Oh, font size 25. And you want that in points, right? Because fonts are in points, right? So by doing that, you magically change the size of this font. No, we didn't. And there's a pretty good reason for that, because we didn't include our file, right? So what you want to do here then is we go back to the front page. So why didn't it change? Well, it's because we didn't bring it in. So we want to do link. RL style sheet href rows, because it's in the CSS folder, we just want to do that. So if you installed Visual Studio Code right, this should actually bring it in pretty easily for you. Right? So what happens now? You can actually go out here and refresh. And you see, it's changed. Okay? So after that's changed, the image is still a little bit off, right? It's still kind of goofy. So I'm going to go in here. I actually want to do some massaging. So we also want to say, hey, I want this image to be a little bit smaller, right? So let's look at our file. So this is called header title. The image itself. No, the image itself is called logo image, right? So you'll copy that name, that logo image. The class for the logo image is that. So let's say you want to make it a little bit smaller. How will we do it? Well, let's just say we want it to be only 15 pixels, right? That should be enough. So by doing that, yeah, actually. Right, so maybe we also well, see that didn't change, but it's because the container's too big, right? So we can go logo. Let's say we want the height to be 150 pixels as well. what did that do? Let me see. Hmm. Oh, it's because it's supposed to class, not ID. Okay, it makes sense. See, you'll run into those kind of issues, right? That's just the gist of it. That's the gist of web programming. So there you go. Now it's like this. Now let's say I want to add a border around because it's just too plain, right? So you want to do a border. Let's just say we wanted like 15. I don't know. What do you think we should make it? We could make it. Let's say, hey, make a solid line with 1 pixel. Make it black, right? Right. So what does that do? Well, do the same for this, right? Okay. Right, so nice black border around it. Let's say I don't want a border. Let's say I want a box shadow. So, how do we get a nice looking box shadow? When we go out to paint that. You can pretty much do a paint. You can do it through Paint, or you can actually go out to the web and just search for box shadow, right? CSS. Right, so the box shadow property is pretty much just like this. Again, this is W3C again. So scroll down. You want to look at one that's nice, right? So let's go with this. See how that looks pretty nice? So we actually want a nice Polaroid look. So we don't really want a Polaroid. We just want the box shadow effect, right? So you can pretty much just say, hey, I want this box shadow. And you paste the style right in. Let's do that. Oh, you got your box shadow. That's too close. Let's go 5 points each. Let's get rid of the black line too. Alright, so let's see. Let's see what our results are. Nice, right? So it stands out, it pops out. Okay. Alright, so next up. Go back here and say, hey, the header is a little bit plain, don't you think? So let's change that up a little bit. Let's wrap this up in. Let's see. Let's change the entire back of the header. How about that? Go header. with the say ID equals what header, and then we want to say we want this header to remain top, so let's call it fixed header. Because we want this thing to be positioned on top all the time. Right, so and then we want to drag the rest of this header code directly into it. Right, so alright, so we drag the code directly into it. Fixed header. We'll go to so how do we make the stay on the top? Well, let's go here. Let's say how do I make it stay on top? Well, you will want it to say so address class, right? Fixed header, right? So well, we want to stretch it all the way across. And we also want this to be the position to be fixed because we want to stay in one place. Okay. Now, if you don't know about fixed positions, it's a good idea to go out here and say CSS, right? Fixed positions. So go fixed position. So in this is position fixed, and the element with the position fixed is positioned relative to the viewport, which means it always stays in the same place, even if the page is scrolled. So that's kind of what you want, right? You want that header to stay in place, even if we scroll it. Okay? And in order to do that, you just have to declare, hey, this position has to be fixed, right? So go fixed. And then let's add some color to the site. So you want to go background color. You can choose anything you want really. But you go to the HTML color site. So you go, hey, HTML colors. Right. Color picker. This is all in W3C anyways. It's a good idea to actually bookmark this place, so I should bookmark it under development. Boom. Okay. So I always have it there. See? Alright, so let's say we want a darker theme. I think I like that one, right? So just copy the code. And then they say, it's on my index. I have that. Now let's look at this progress of our site. Well, it's looking like this. You want the color to be white. So you actually want your style up here to be not shite, white. Okay, that's pretty funny. So, all right, and go font family. What is the specific font? Now, this is all in here, right? You can go Georgia if you like that style, right? You can go Franklin Gothic, cursive, or very new. Let's try cursive, see what that looks like. See, that's what it looks like. I don't know like that. So let's go with. I'm gonna go Cambria Franklin. Let's try that. Hmm. I don't really like that either. I think I like the Cambria version. Okay, so let's see what that looks like then. That looks a little better. Okay. Now, I also want to add a subtitle because this is the main site, but I actually want to see a subtitle under there. So let's do this. Let's copy this, paste it. Let's just call this subtitle. And then I want to call this on the CSS page. We actually want to say, hey, it's subtitle. I want it to be what? Let's go. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Because it's subtitle, right? So let's go font size. Just do 18 points. Okay. I actually want to. Hey. Oh, that's because that's the main homepage, right? So let's do this. Oh, so why is it there? Well, very easy way to do that is just go VR. No, VR is just a break, right? It's a insecurity return. So, uh, so what you'll have, what you'll end up with is something like that. That looks good. I don't like that background color at all. Let's see, style, CSS. Let's go with. Let's go a little bit dark. That stands out a little bit better. It's pretty neat because you just have to hover over a little bit and it'll actually show up with the colors. So you can actually avoid going all the way up there, which is really cool. Right? So, that looks a little bit better. So let's get rid of this. There's a lot of white space over there, right? Okay. We're getting there. All right, so the next step would be to add some content. Let's say I want a. So because this is fixed, right? This header is fixed. Go and do. Let's add some more to the header. So got your fixed header here. You got your row, and then it's the middle section. So we want this column to expand as much as possibly can. So we're just gonna leave it alone, but we're not add another column. Okay. This time we're just gonna call it. We're gonna leave it in there like that. We're just gonna put in custom style. Max width, we're gonna do 260 pixels. I just want to add. I'm gonna put the Metro logo on there. Yeah, let's do that. Let's put the Metro logo on there. So this will put. We only have these images, right? We want to add another image into this. So I've downloaded the Metro logo in here, and I just want to put it there. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this. That just opened it. So let's go image. But I also want to alt tag in these, right? So that even if the page doesn't show up, she alternates between yours and the other pages. So as you can see here, it actually inserted the image, but it's all the way to the right there. So, that's a big, that's a bit small. So you get your left, then your right, and then, so this is all the way to the right here. Doesn't look nice, does it? So we actually want to narrow that down a little bit, right? So, well, make it smaller. Style. Smaller. 250 pixels. That should be enough. Alright. I'm gonna put it to the right. So what does that look like? Still kind of goofy, doesn't it? Still looks pretty goofy. So let's just say I'll add another. Let's just go like this. Nice with yes. So we're gonna add our profile here. So first goes this. Then I already had it propped out for the profile picture here, right? You can pretty much add any picture you want. So let's go Kenji. Kenji. So So here we want to add a div of based on your lab specs, you actually want a table of div colors, right? Here I'm making it really small. You can make it bigger if you want. You can pretty much put this anywhere you want. I want to put in the header so I can change it anytime. Okay. So, if you don't know what I'm doing here, this is a standard table implementation for HTML. All right, so here I'm gonna go. I'm gonna add div equals that color. Now, these colors are actually just gonna be decorated based on the class of these divs. Based on the IDs of these divs. So the reason we're doing this is so that we can dynamically change it later, right? So if I don't do this, there's really no way to attach to it, as you'll see later on. There's a method behind the madness. You actually want to specify an ID for each of these if you actually want to be able to access it outside the scope of this HTML document. So how long is this taking? But so we have 3 boxes here. Okay. So you can do as many as you want, really. But the more you do, the harder it will be for you to do it. All right, so what do we have? So far, this is what we have. Now those boxes are right here, but you don't actually see them because the colors haven't been added to them yet. And in order to add the colors, you simply go here. Simply go to the so let's go red color. Now to ask them to basically override the themes of a ID, right? In this case, the red color. You use a pound, okay? So I can go with. I really just want that red color to be what? 20 by 25. And then the background color. Let's say. I don't want red. What do I want? That is a bit extreme, right? Let's go a little bit lighter. A little bit darker. Because our theme's a little bit dark, right? Let's do that. You save that, and you'll see that the style has been overridden. And it should look like that. But wait, why does it show up on the bottom here? We actually want it on the side. So, because this overrides our... So why would it show up on the bottom, not on the side? Well, how would you do that? One way to do it is to limit the height of the column, right? So the height of this fixed header. try that. Oh, but your color's still showing up at the bottom there. Why is that? Right? So, what to do? How do we resolve this? Hmm. Max width. What if we made this? Let's change this height. Now, all of this, it really does take a little bit of experimentation. So, that's what programming is. It's really adjusting the code to match your the output that you want. So it's still doing that. Be curious. Okay, so let's see. Maybe it's in the table itself, right? So let's say maybe we had to override the table. What do you think? Hmm. Or we can say that since this is, we can override this div itself. Right. So let's just do that. So, because the ID is colors, right? Let's go, hey, I want it to be exactly 75 pixels. And I want it to line up to the right, right? So again, we can use the position. Again, absolute is, hey, this has to stay in place no matter what, okay? And then I'm gonna be about 10, it's about 10 pixels on the top. Then let's say you want it to also be about, leave a little space to the right. Now this should actually put your, this will actually put your code or that box exactly 50-50 from the right. So it'll always stay in place no matter what. Fixed to this position right here. Okay? Interesting, right? Now this picture is a little bit off too. It's a little bit too big. So let's just do that for the picture as well. So, a lot of what UI designers do is really matching stuff exactly to the pixel. And if you're able to do that, then you're actually a really good UX designer because it means that stuff will stay directly in place. And these CSS methods allow you to then. Hello? 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 Alright, so here we go. So the profile picture itself should be around 80 by 80, you know? You can make it any size, but it won't fit that screen, right? And the reason you want to do this is for future planning as well, because you want to be able to access this at any time. Most standard web design is pretty much tailored around that as well. So you always kind of want you want your user to be able to access the profile. If you go to any site, even like Amazon and stuff like that, they'll always have a link to the profile directly on the top, and you follow those design conventions because it's something that's uh, tested and used across the board, and almost every site does that. So why break something? uh, so why break from convention, right? Because it's what people are used to and what people follow. So all right, so yeah, of course you have the option to put it anywhere you want, but let's do that. And then once I save this, go back in here. There you go. It's smaller. The bricks there. Now we just have to do the same for all the other colors. So three other colors, right? So blue color, and go blue, and then green. Again, you're gonna should go blue. Well, I actually want to use this color that's up here because because it's what it was. And then the green one, we could actually change it to green. Okay. All right, so you should be able to see it now. Just like that. It's kind of plain, isn't it? So we could say, hey, let's add a border to it. Let's see. Solid. One piece. Solid. You can be any color you want, really, but let's just do that. Silver's a little bit. I want to play black too. I want to blend it in a little bit, right? So let's do that. Mm. Maybe two. I think that would do it. There we go. See how pretty that is now? Anyways, yeah, why don't we do the same for the profile pictures? They're kind of uniform, right? So let's do that. Boom. There we go. Now it stands out. All right. So yeah. So we got our header done. Let's add a little bang to this, right? For the header itself, I kind of have a box shadow. So let's do this. Actually, we can go body. Let's just keep our font uniform, right? It should not change. So, by doing this, we force a format where everything is the same. And you see it doesn't change because the entire body has that theme. And let's get rid of... let's change that a little bit too. Let's change this box shadow to be a little bit smaller. We just want it barely noticeable. Right? Go a little bit darker on this too. You can go a little bit darker. Maybe a little bit lighter. Let's try that. Yep, so it's barely noticeable, right? It's kind of what we want. Okay, and then let's put a little. Let's apply the same to the header, right? Box shadow, color, 3 pixels, 3 pixels. But instead of gray, we want it to be a little bit more noticeable. So we want to do like darker black, kind of like that, right? So let's try this. All right. Sweet. Okay. Alright, so the next piece. Hmm. We need a footer. Yeah, let's go with a footer. The lab itself calls for a footer, so let's do that. So we got our header here. We'll go footer. If you notice, I just collapsed this so that it's easier to read. So we can go footer. Now we want the footer to be fixed as well. So fixed footer. We want to create 3 columns, right? Plants. Okay. So I copied and pasted 3 times in a row, right? That's basically all I did. But the middle one, we want style. We want the middle to have text and line. We want to have the text be in the middle. So we want to do something. Alright, so same concept up here. Go access by. This is copyright. And finally, you want in my case, I want to be kept. I mean, pretty much anything. We're gonna override this later. So, actually, you know what? We'll just put a span there. A span is just pretty much an arbitrary text value. So, and you could we do want to assign an ID. Let's just call it access by because of the access by. And then you can default it to your name. We're gonna override this later when we actually get into the user profile stuff. Access. And then this will come into play soon too. So you actually want to add this into here. I'm gonna put a span here too. And we're gonna implement a ticker for this, right? So that's why this is like this. So I'm gonna save this. Okay. Now we want the fixed footer to pretty much inherit all the properties of what these are. Position fixed, width, height. Uh, let's see. But is it practical? Well, I think we can do it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this. We're gonna have common properties. And then when you do this, you're combining these two as having the same, uh, pretty much having the same properties, right? So you actually can say, hey, all of these belong to here. So both of these inherit those properties, and then you can say fixed footer has its own property because we don't want it to be the same height, right? We're gonna say width equals 100%. Should height. The width to be up here because they both have to be all the way across. So the only thing that comes into play here is the fixed header. And the fixed footer, we simply want the height to be what? 40 pixels. So what does that look like? Well, that's ugly. It's right in the middle of the thing here, right? So why does it look like that? Well, so how do you fix that? Well, we want it all the way in the bottom, and we want the header to actually stay on top. So header, you can just say, hey, I want it to be 0 pixels on the top. And then you can say, I want it always to be in front of everything. So z index equals the z index is when you think of 3 dimensions, it's x, y, and z, right? Z is the z dimension. So depending on where you put this index, it supersedes all the other code, right? So we want it to be pretty much at the max level. 900 really isn't the max level, but it's high enough. Nobody really indicates it. Right, so same with a footer. We want that to be z index equals 900 as well. So let's do that. No, because that's at the top. We want this on the bottom, right? So, bottom 0. So when you think about it, it's like the top is 0, bottom for the header is 0. So it starts at the 0 point of the top, and the bottom it will always be anchored to the bottom. Okay, so because of that, because they're both anchored, this should work. We got 40 pixels. we kind of wanted to be. We kind of wanted to. What do you call it? Well, let's just leave it at that. All right, let's run it. Ah, see, there it is. Looks nice, right? But we actually wanted to add in 5 picks because, and then there's a problem here. So what's the problem? All right, so why is it like that? So why is it all in one column? So if you look at the documentation here, right? Let's jump back to. No, I'm purposely doing this. I know what the solution is already, but if you look at the documentation, you look at the grids. What are we missing? So, Bootstrap. So the grids, you always have to have a row and the columns, right? Perhaps that's what I'm missing. It's because it's not displaying as a row, so it doesn't know where to lay it out. Right, so that makes perfect sense. So all we have to do is add this class div row, and we have to wrap this into a row, right? And that would actually solve the problem here. Okay, so you will always run into stuff like this because of that, because it's so specific like that. So, especially with Bootstrap, because it doesn't know where to wrap it, right? So when you do this, ta-da, right? So it actually does that. It actually wants some spacing in between here, but this actually looks good already. So we'll leave it at that. Okay. So we have your header, your footer, all done. All right. So we're getting there. So the next step is to do the menu. So how do I do the menu? Well, we want to create another row right in the middle here, right? Okay. So let's create another row. And here, you got your header, your footer. And right after this, we'll go not the I, but ID. Okay. Just want that be a container class. We actually want it to be a row because we want to allocate the stuff as a row. Alright. And then the first column will be the menu. Yeah. Alright, so. And then you really want to have. Inside this menu, you actually want to have a series of labs. So the very first thing you want to do is go H2. So this is the second heading, labs, right? And you're going to do a BR there. Do a break. Then this one do another. Yeah. Do a list. So a standard list is a HTML list like this. And then you just want to go li. Your labs. So you just want to go a draft. So a standard link implementation is the A tag, right? Stands for action link. So basically the href is where your location is. So, but before we do this, we actually want to create a series of labs, right? So again, we're at the root. So what you want to do is you want to click out of the loop, click out of the folders here to make sure you're not in folders. Then you want to add a bunch of folders in here. So the first one will be labs. Right? And then you actually want to add another folder. You want to add the projects folder. Right, and then in the labs, you actually want to add a series of folders, lab one. Right. Now be sure to click on the actual lab itself before you do this, because if you do it, if the lab one is highlighted, then you will end up creating a folder inside that lab one. Right, so highlight this before you do this. What?
To see your face.
Why? Oh, well, you just. I'm in the middle of recording. What's up? Okay, so I'm going to create a bunch of folders here. Lab 4. Actually, we don't need lab 3, lab 1. So you will rename that to lab 5. And we don't only need lab 2. This is actually lab 2. So lab 2 is creating a folder structure. So you don't really need that either. So you want to do lab 6, right? So you actually start in lab 3. And then lab 7. Lab 8. Lab 9. Lab 10. Now, previously we were using a tool called NetBeans, and that did not go too well. So this is actually a lot easier to use, and this is the recommended tool. So, yeah. So, finally, you go to projects. Project phase 1. The reason I'm naming these with a by convention you don't want anything to separate separate these, right? Because you're gonna create links to these, and eventually some. Well, I wouldn't say some, but I would say that it used to be that there was issues resolving links with spaces in them. So it's better just to do this way so that you don't have to worry about putting spaces in your links. If that makes any sense. By convention, this is probably and then you want to have 5. All right, so you have all these labs. Yep, boom, boom, boom. All right, now you can create your links to them. Okay, so labs, and your href is basically labs 3. We're gonna call it lab 3. Now, if you look at your, you want to create this for all of them, right? So the easiest way to do this, I find, is just do this. B 4, 5, 6, 7. Save this automatically does that. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now there's a really cool thing with Visual Studio. You just go Alt, then like that. You know, should change it all. But we don't want to do that. We actually want to change each individual one. So. Alright. Same thing for the projects. So copy this. Next. 2, 3, 4. That's about 5 of them. So that. Right, so do this, copy it. Just delete all this. It's probably easier just to delete this. Oops. Two, 3, 4. I don't know. 2, 3, 4. That's fine. Alright, so let's look at our work. See how far we got. So why is it like this? Right? So how come it's overriding like that? So why does it look like this? Interesting, right? Because we're not wrapping it in a column, that's why. Okay, so since we didn't wrap it in a column, we need to do that. So just call it class column, right? So in this column with this menu though, we want this menu to be limited, right? We want it to have a max width because we want it to be on the left. So, just take a portion of the left. So we want to have a width of about, I don't know, 210 pixels. And then we want the height to be as high as possible, so 100%, right? Right, so and then this, we actually want this height to be infinitely long, so 9,000. It should be more than plenty, right? And it will overflow. But this is so the menu can stretch it. Alright, so let's see what it looks like. Alright, so why is all of this hidden? Right? How come it's hidden like that? We want it to show up. Well, one of the key things you can do is let's say we move this up and down. Let's say we move this pressure down. It's still hidden because all of this is overriding it. Remember that we position this on the top so that it'll always stay there, right? So how do we achieve uniformity so that this menu can flow afterwards? Well, one way to do it would be to, I don't know, add some spacing to the top. So in order to add spacing to the top, we'll have to go to our CSS file. All right, so in the body you could say, I want some spacing at the top. So, and the height of our header is, let's see what's the header effect. Height of header. It's 100 pixels. So let's say we just want a couple. We just want it to be a little bit lower than that. So padding. Say, hey, I want the top to be 10 pixels. 110 pixels. Right, so let's do that. Let's save it. So why did that work? Oh, I did. Now if I refresh it, see it actually lines it up perfectly. Interesting, right? So yeah, so now you have your links here, right? So why is this error not? It's because I didn't add the demo, because I'm in the subfolder of the demo. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that I should get rid of this. Right? Now, we will be adding these back in later when we actually go to the sub pages, but so does that work? Let's see. Let's refresh the page. Alright, so it actually goes to the lab 3. Alright, so interesting enough, this will go to the proper directory of the lab. Okay. So that menu is a little bit plain, so let's add some pizzazz to it. So say this menu color. So we don't have a menu class yet, but we can add one. So for the menu class, we just want a background color to be a little bit different. Let's go with start with blue, right? For some reason, it doesn't show up until you change it. But let's say I want a lighter blue than the actual menu itself, than the actual page itself, right? So let's go with this. Let's do that. Oh, do I even have class menu here? No, I don't, right? So I don't have class menu here. So where do I put it? Right there. It's not a class. It's an ID, right? Ooh. All of a sudden, doesn't look too pretty. All right. So let's go a little bit lighter blue. Okay. It still looks kind of weird, doesn't it? Ah, because the color, right? So let's say, change the color to white. So what the if you look at the style, it's a little bit too close to the top, so we want the top to be about 20 pixels down, and then everything else be about 5 pixels all around, so that we can center it. That's uniform. Yeah, so let's see. Oh, well, that didn't work. Why not? Hmm. I wonder. Because we're overriding this. So I think we have to add another one. We do have to do this. So this being that, so that. And that should do it, right? Oh, interesting, right? Right, so well, the links to be a different color too. So in order to override the links, you just go menu A. So with CSS, you can pretty much add anything you want to a class, right? So for example, the class menu, all of the links in there can have this property. So we're gonna change it to white. But because this is white already, let's change it to something a little bit more discreet. So let's go like this. See the menu stretches all the way down. All right. And you have your perfectly still header here. It'll be like that. All right. Cool, right? Now comes the fun part, animations. Okay, so this is your layout. I think we still need to add one more thing. We need to add the content. So header's done. Header's done. Container's done. Menu's done. But we need to add content, right? So with content, simply want it to be like, add a column, but we want to add content. We just want to add. Basically something like that. Do it. Alright. So, what does that look like? Well, boom. There we go. Right, now we can actually go into the code and say, hey, I want this time to start clicking. Right, I actually want to have something that indicates when I access the page. I also want to be able to change colors as I click on these, right? And I want this to be a rotator. So, how do we do that? Well, we want to go into images. So you want to create a new folder here. Right, so in the root, you can go JS. Now, if you accidentally create it like this, right, then you can pretty much just move it out of here, right, just like that, and then we'll be outside it. So you just want to create a new file. Right, so the site.js. First things first, you actually want to add this as a reference. So just like the scripts here, right? You really just want to do this. But you don't do the JS subfolder, right? Just like that. Okay, so here we want to have a collapsible menu. Well, we can start with like the spin. All right. So in the spinner, we want to actually go to this W3CSS home. Then look for a slideshow, right? So all a spinner really is just a series of slides, just like this, right? But you actually want to go all the way down here and say, hey, I want it to spin, right? Because these are pretty cool. They're all pretty cool. And you can use this for your image libraries too. but it would be this one. We're looking for something like this, right? So you just need a little JavaScript. And copy this code, right? So all this code really is doing is going through your slide, your pictures, and then just swapping them out. So let's take that out. So 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 here we want to do a spinner, right? So in order to do that, we kind of have to play with JavaScript a little. If you've never worked with JavaScript, then it'd be a good idea to go to W3C CSS and learn about JavaScript. Now, there's a whole series of things, and we won't be going over that in our lecture. So we did go over that in our lecture, so you should have some introduction to it, but not as thorough as I want it to be. That should have been your previous class. If it wasn't, then I thoroughly apologize because there's no way I could fit an entire course of JavaScript into my class. All right, so basically, Java to include JavaScript, you pretty much need a code like this, which we already have. Right? We already included in our site here. Okay. And then we also want to pull in the W3 CSS library because that allows us to, it gives us a bunch of really cool stuff. So really, you just need this link here, and then put it into your code. And it is the W3C stuff, so they are the guys that manage the platform for HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so yeah, you pull it in here. All right, so we're on version 4, of course. And then, yeah, once you pull that in, you actually want it on top of yours. So these do matter the way you load them. So you do want this in front of your style so that none of these styles override what you have. Okay. All right. So once you pull that in, here's where the magic comes in. Right. So once you pull it in, you see you can go to the W3C home site. Actually see all of the different updates of it. All the really cool things you can do with this. They have sample codes, you know. Yeah, and all it really is just basically template styles that you use, right? So it's just like Bootstrap, just a little bit different, right? And you can do rounded corners, all that stuff. Right? So, for example, like this one, right? I can go W3 round and apply it to my style here. You see that picture up there? I can actually go in here and say, hey, I want it to be rounded. So how do I do that? I should go in here and say my picture. Oh, where's my picture? In the header here. And say class header logo, maybe 3 round, right? Now if I do this, it actually rounds out the corners for me. Or actually, this supersedes that, then it does it. Did it round it up? No, it didn't. Okay, never mind. Or did I not include it into the style itself? Okay, that didn't work. I think my header logo is. Oh, never mind. That's my fault. Put it in the wrong place. It'll be here. Right. So if I go like this. There you go. You'll have the rounded corners. You see that? Yeah, she rounded up the corners like that. Which is pretty cool. But yeah, it rounds up the corners. I don't know if you really want that. I'm not that big of a fan of rounded corners, but if you like it, then you can apply it to whatever you want, right? So, right, so that's just an example, right? So, it's pretty awesome stuff, right? So, again, you can do the box shuttle as well, round corners. There's a whole bunch of other stuff here, accordions, navigation bars, right? And then there's accordions, which is really cool. And this is what we're going to be applying to our menu. But that's for later. Right now, we just want to go in here and do some modifications. All right, so. All right, so. I'll leave the round corners. I'm just going to take it out. Okay. All right, so. Right, we want to do the carousel, right? So let's do that. Well, let's start with changing the colors. Let's do the carousel first. I can't. I can't change. I can't really think right now. Okay, so, um, and so with JavaScript, it's pretty straightforward implementation when you think about it. So let's say you want to do a carousel. All you really have to do is rotate some images, right? So in order to rotate an image, then we'll start with a starting variable, and then I want to go for s equals. So you just want to go into your document object, and then you just want to go to get elements by class name, because but before we do this, there's one step we forgot. Alright, so because we have this logo image, right, and on the top there, okay. We actually want to pull in all of the images. So 4, 5, 6. 5, 6. Oh. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2. Notice they're all named. They all have the same class. Okay. All right. So because they all have the same class, let's see what happens when we actually go load the page. Not too good, right? It covered our entire menu. Okay. But if we apply the carousel to it, function to it, you'll see what happens. Right, so this document dot get elements by class name means I'm loading all 6 elements into this X array. Okay? So I'm gonna traverse through that array. Like 0 less than X dot length. It simply says, oh, loop through I, okay. And so loop through the array of images that I loaded. So like I said, it doesn't matter how many images you can have like 20 of them, right? So just go through each one of them, and then I'm gonna hide it all. Right, that's the right, the style. Display equals none. So what happens now? Right? So what happens when we load the page? Nothing. Because we haven't called this function yet. So what do we call this function? Well, we call it right at the very end here when everything's loaded. Alright, so script make sure it's right. Copy this and paste it in, right? So we can do that. And what happens? Right. Did I include my script? So why isn't it working? Obviously it's running, right? So let's try this. Let's see why it's not working. So how do you troubleshoot this? Well, you're going to the web at 12. Say, hey, source. Huh. All right. So what does that function do? It basically hides it, right? So if you debug it, you can actually see that it's actually executing that. So you can actually go here and say, hey, when I refresh it, what does it do? It actually iterates through these and then run the first iteration, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. So after the sixth iteration, it actually hides the image. It hides each image, right? So that's pretty cool, right? So now if I refresh a page, it does the same exact thing. So that's all it does. Yeah, that's all it really does. It basically hides the image. Well, after we hide the image, we want to change it back and display the first. Well, we want to display whatever's next in line. It's so. I just want to initialize the slide index. So where we initialize that? Why don't we just actually want to say, as soon as you come into the function, realize it. Right. So you start at 0. So when you go to the function, it's going to increment to 1, right? So after you increment to 1, you actually want to say, well, let's say if I get to the end of the slide, right? I want to reset it back. So let's say if slide index is greater than x.length, right? And this will go x. Here we're accessing the array at this location. So because an array starts at 0, we want to say, hey, the first image should actually be this. Be the current slide index minus 1. Okay, so that's what do we mean by display black? So we're changing the style from hidden to show, right? So, and then we can say, hey, I want this to not run for another. I want to call myself again in about when you go set timeout. It's like, hey, call this function within this amount of minutes. So let's say I want to keep this as. No, I'm going to call this function again. But I want to call it every 30 seconds, right? No, if I say 5 seconds. Well, let's do 5 seconds first. So I want to call every 5 seconds. So what happens? So every 5 seconds, your picture is changing. See, that works pretty well, right? So every 5 seconds. Leave it at that, but I'm going to set the timer to be 30 seconds. So yeah, 30 seconds is good. You can do it every minute too. For a minute, you just put 60, right? All right, so that's the time. Now the next thing would be, well, we need a clock done. We need a time to track our time on the page, right? So what do we do? Then say that as we load the reason you want to use the window.unload is that this should only initialize after the page is loaded, so that you can find the objects within the elements, right? So we want to say, let's create a new, let's get the current date. Bar date equals date. we can call it clock. Let's create a new function here. Call it clock. It's the same principle as before, right? So this time you want to grab the date, right? There's a quick reference for JavaScript dates that you can actually go to and find out, but here we're just going to go straight into the implementation. Var date, var d equals. Now I'm going to try and get my element here. Document dot get element by ID, and we want that to be the name here. We want it to be this name here. So the current date. So you want to do copy and paste if possible, right? So boom, all right, current date. So that's my current date. Yeah, bad mistake. Function. Okay, so so when you create a new, so we just want to create a function for clock here. Let's start that again. Right, so the next step is create a ticker, right? A clock for this access portion, right? So just want to create a new function, right? Call it clock, right? Var pt goes new dates. Just initialize our current dates, right? Right, so our this building. Our D goes here we want to grab the location of the date on this, so alright. So it would be here. It would be this one. Right, so found the location of the dates. Right. Do that. Now, in order to access the properties of this, we actually want to go inner HTML. The inner HTML is actually whatever HTML goes inside that span element here, right? So the span element, if you want to set this property, and whatever's inside this tag is called the inner HTML. Just as you would if you want to inject something into this div here of the ID menu, you would inject something in there by going through the inner HTML. You can do a bunch of things like add more text or something like that. Right? So you just say inner HTML, right? So I want to get my daytime. JavaScript has a built-in functionality to serialize the date as locale string, and that actually just displays that the current daytime in a nice looking way. And then I want to do the set timeout again, right? Just as we did with the carousel. We just want to do clock, right? And then we want to set it to every minute, right? Right. We'll just save that. And then this will go. Clock. Right? After we do that, boom. you get your time down there. And it's actually 5/19/2020, 4:17 p.m. So there you go. It's clicking away. Right. So this is the guided portion of the lab. I'll expect you to do the rest of the lab on your own. And again, visit this W3CSS accordion session to see how you can actually do that. So you actually go to the sidebar here, right? It'll actually show you how to implement a sidebar content here, but it's really using the accordion aspect of it. Okay, so all you really have to do is I mean, how you implement this menu is really up to you. It's just the just make sure that it works. So I like that. So there's a lot of different ways to style this, but what I'm really looking for is something similar to what I have, right? So, so for example, this accordion one, right? So, so just follow their example here. Let's see how they have it all structured down here. You only have to do this, but you have to click on this, try it yourself, and they actually have the JavaScript code that you need. It will just be this piece of it that you'll need. And this is good practice for you to learn how to do it. Why you're given the demo ACC one here, and why the sidebar, well, the demo ACC is the ID here, right? So that's why you need it. So yeah, this will guide you through it. And this is a really good resource for all of your UI needs, really. All right, so the menu is something that I expect you to do on your own, and then you want to make sure that all of these link. All right, so let's show you one other thing. Right, so because the site is like this already, we want to make sure that all the other subsites look like this, right? So right now we just have this blank page, so we actually want it to be uniform. So in order to do that, I just want to go into here to our, and all we really have to do is just copy this page. Copy, and then in our labs here, do a paste, right? So this is the same exact site, right? But there's a problem. We actually go into it. See, it looks like this, right? It's because your links here are off. So what I mean by off is that you have to. So in other words, if we look at the inspection here, so why is it off? Well, it can't load it because if you notice that you can't load it in Lab 3, there's no styles being loaded. Your index isn't being loaded. Even your JS files are not being loaded. Why is that? Well, it's because it can't resolve it. Why can't it resolve it? Because you're like one level in the actual project itself. So how do you get out of this? How do you actually access it? So because it's two layers of pathing in this, you need to come out of it. So in order to do that, you have to go something like this, just like that. So this is 2. So to get out of this folder, you have to go back 1 and back 2. Then the CSS folder is in the root, right? It's the same concept with this, right? The site.js. All right, so what about the images? It's the same thing. So you can just go copy, paste. Copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And then same with all your images should be that way. Okay. Alright. So why does it still look like that? Right? Well, it didn't load your CSS files, right? So are these images? Demo Labs 3. I updated it. Same applies for your links. Now we'll address this later when we get into the PHP portion, right? Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I have the exo period, so that's why. It's kind of goofy. See? Very bad mistakes, right? So this could pretty much throw everything off. So you really want to make sure that you have it right. So, in other words, all right. So this should work now. All right. So this is lab 2, lab 3, right? Lab 4. So lab 3 is actually here. Okay. Now in here we actually want to add a home button, right? Because because we want to be able to go back home. So you want to put it like I don't know, a button up here. uh, yeah. So you just want to do this. Yeah, let's try that. So let's take it back home, and this goes back to demo. But if you go in here, you have lab 3. All right, So what does that mean? Well, it just means that you can actually go straight back home. All right. So since we know how this works, we can actually copy this, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it. It's the same thing for the project, right? So what does that mean? Well, there you go. Go here. Let's go lab 4, lab 5, lab 6, lab 7, lab 8, lab 9, lab 10. Phase 1. Oh, why are we still doing that, right? Well, let's see. We still have the 3 dots again, alright? So, not sure why I didn't fix this. Alright. Hmm. Okay. Alright. So as you can see, one little mistake could cause a ton of problems, right? The extra period would cause a lot of problems. Okay, so what's going on? Oh, I didn't say the one. Yeah, what's up? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll